Hi, I'm Blake Buse, and I'm your marketing technology maestro.
Hey, I'm Greg Marshall. I'm your social media marketing strategist.
And this is the Modern Marketers Podcast.
All right. Well, Blake, what's your thoughts on, let's get right into it. So Facebook has changed, its name. Well, not the properties it owns, I guess, but just the parent company called Meta.
Yeah, Meta.
What are your thoughts? What does this mean?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they've been beat up a lot in the press lately over a ton of things. Maybe that sparked why they decided to make the change right now. A lot of people are talking about this concept called the Metaverse. If you've ever watched Ready Player One or read the book Ready Player One, have you?
No.
Oh, okay. It's all centered around this online universe called the Oasis, and it's like a dystopian future. Most people don't like living in the real world, so they hop into this virtual reality and spend most of their time in there. And the whole economies and everything are happening virtually. Contests, jobs, like people can log into their job and work all day in VR at an office, a VR office, and everything. And Metaverse is the kind of generic term for something like that.
Got it.
A lot of people are speculating. I mean, it's not even speculation. They literally said that this is what they wanted to do, but they wanted to take this whole concept and encapsulate it and make it a thing because they feel like in 10, 20, 30 years, that's going to be
The new way we operate?
kind of a bigger reality. So they already own the Oculus VR headsets. So I don't know. We'll just see. I mean, nothing's going to change right now. We might see Facebook.com change to a different domain name sometime in the future, but I mean, it's worth talking about. But it's all kind of up in the air right now, and I don't know how it's all going to play out.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, I think sometimes we all forget these are all businesses. So they're making business decisions, right? How do you think this benefits Facebook business-wise?
Well, it's all about, I mean, to use the words engagement or whatever, but it's taking engagement kind of to the next level. So imagine if a large percentage of the population, their entire workday happened inside of this virtual reality. You could sell virtual billboards. You could sell virtual, all sorts of virtual things. They could have their own virtual currency, and that currency could rival a currency of like a government. I mean, Facebook has 1.25 billion people logging into it every month.
Yeah.
I think if they launch their own cryptocurrency, which they said they're going to do, right? They could have a currency that is, I don't know, more stable, more universal than the U.S. dollar potentially, eventually. Because how many people live in the United States? 330 million, something like that. Facebook has a larger audience than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can get people to be fully immersive in their platform and their system. The sky is the limit for ways they can monetize all of that.
So basically, what it sounds like, it's allowing them, because I have noticed, obviously this is a marketing podcast, and so we talk a lot about, marketing strategies, and I've noticed more placements in the Facebook ad account on where you can place ads.
Oh, really?
Yes, recently. And I don't know if it's on every account. Maybe it's just on some, because, as you go, I notice on different client accounts, they have, it seems like different, I guess, features.
Yeah.
There, right?
Yeah.
And one that I just saw actually this morning was the Reels, not only the Reels placement, but then a Reels overlay placement, which is slightly different. And I think, because it's so new, I don't know, so I'm making a speculation. I would guess it's similar to the banner ads that are on YouTube, on YouTube videos, like on the bottom. I think that's what that is.
Interesting.
But I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that there's a lot more ad placements.
So you're talking the little banner that sits on top of the video, kind of in the bottom center.
Yes. I think that's what it is.
Interesting. There's not a lot of screen real estate on Reels already.
So that's why I said I could be wrong, but my initial thought is because in the ads platform, it actually says like Reels, and then in parentheses it says overlays. And so my only thought would be, well, an overlay to me would be some type of writing across the reel. That would be my guess.
I think that makes sense. It'll have to be something we test out for sure. That's interesting. I didn't know they were rolling out specific placements for that.
And it seems like it just feels like there's more and more placements. You know, like they added the Facebook search, right? That was a placement that was new. It just seems like that placement list is growing. And so that's my thought is they're probably, you know, with Meta, they're looking to expand because there's so many people advertising in the Facebook news feed, and they probably want to have more control on data that they own.
Yeah.
So that they can't be blocked again by things like iOS or
and that's the thing. That's what a lot of people don't realize is like inside the Facebook app, Facebook still knows all the things you're doing, and so the more they can control your entire online experience, or control's probably the wrong word. The more they can own and have your entire online experience happen inside their platform or all of any of their platforms, the more they're going to know about you and what you're doing, because that's all first party data, meaning data they're collecting directly from you per their terms and conditions, because you're choosing to use their properties and their apps and everything like that. But it's like, I think of advertising in real estate as the same quite a bit. How do you sell more homes? Well, you open up some more real estate for sale, right? And that's the same thing with ads. How do you sell more ads if it's a pretty congested marketplace and costs are going up and people are ditching because costs are too high? You launch some more real estate. You give them more places to put the ads, and now you have more real estate to sell. And the thing with digital real estate is the more digital real estate to sell, the more you can sell, right?
Well, and if you're the first in market, you can eat up, which is the strategy that all these giant businesses use. If you're first to market, you can eat up most of the real estate, therefore allowing you to be in control of the virtual real estate.
Yep. And if you can eat up so much, it's hard for anybody else to come in and make a dent. Every now and again, you'll see something make a dent, but then a company like Facebook, their play is usually to just buy that company out. That's why they own Instagram.
Yep.
Right? Instagram was knocking their socks off, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. It's been a while since they thought they couldn't compete, so they just bought Instagram.
Well, who's the new player?
It's TikTok.
TikTok, right? Now all of a sudden you're seeing reels everywhere on Facebook.
You're seeing reels all over the place, and I think Facebook would be more than happy to buy TikTok right now. I think the price tag is too high, or it's owned by a Chinese company, so I don't know.
And here's my question. I'm happy you brought that up, because my next question was actually going to be, so did they sell? I remember hearing like Microsoft and Walmart bought either parts of TikTok or maybe most of it or all of it. Do you remember that? There was a part where something was sold from TikTok, and I just remember Walmart because it stood out to me like, wow, that's interesting. I wouldn't expect a Walmart or Microsoft to be involved with TikTok, but I could be wrong. But I could have sworn I heard something like that.
I do remember hearing something like that, and I don't know the specifics. I mean, we could look it up and clarify in our next episode or whatever. But
I say that because how do you think that would impact the difference on if it's Chinese ownership versus American ownership?
Okay, so now we're gonna dive into like data privacy and everything like that. So the concern is, and I get this concern.
Wouldn't that be dangerous?
I get this concern. So let's say I'm a government and I want to do some mass surveillance on a country that we have some okay ties with, but not the greatest ties with. If I could have a social media platform that everybody's hopping on, I can collect any data on anybody I want to whatsoever. And early versions of TikTok sent a lot of data directly to servers that were hosted in China. And so security researchers brought that up. And that's one of the reasons, 2019, maybe 2020, Trump said he was going to ban TikTok from the United States. That was part of the reason why that whole conversation started happening. So one of the things that was discussed, and I don't know how this fell out, was that, well, if if the parts of TikTok that operate in the United States could be owned by a U.S. company,
Yeah.
then President Trump said he would allow them to continue to operate. And I don't know how all that fell out. There was some there was a whole probably legal battle and everything going on with something there, and I don't know how that all fell out. But the reality is that a lot of these companies have lots of different investors. So when you say, well, Walmart bought them out, they may have invested in it, but we don't know if they have a controlling,
stake
in it or
and
whatever.
That's what I was curious.
And I know Oracle, they're a big database company. They were looking, they were one of the names that popped up. Walmart, some of these others, and I don't know how all that fell out. I don't know what's going on, but it is a conversation worth having from a governmental standpoint about privacy of people and who owns that data. And these are all conversations that are going to be going on for the next 10 or 20 years as laws try to catch up with how fast technology has outpaced the laws.
I definitely would say there's probably going to be a need for adjustment on laws because
absolutely.
Before a lot of our laws feels like they were built previous to technology, right?
Yeah.
And they worked for that world, but now this is the new world when it comes to technology and what's being offered. And so all I know is I would not want to be a lawmaker because this stuff is moving so quickly
and not to get too political, but more people should pay attention to how people vote surrounding technology and vote for candidates that put in or have a good understanding of technology and how you want that to proceed. Because most politicians have no clue when it comes to technology. And there's been a lot of conversation about cryptocurrencies lately with politics, and I don't want to go down this path, but the reality is nearly everything politicians are saying about cryptocurrencies is incorrect. It's inaccurate. And what they're claiming is happening, what they're claiming is going on, it's incorrect. And I'll tell you why. I've been a software engineer for a long time, and I have never felt as dumb as I feel when I try to understand the technology behind cryptocurrencies and blockchain. It's insanely complicated. So if you have someone coming to you that's been researching, blockchain technologies and things for a few weeks or even a few months, and they're like, hey guys, I got a great handle on this, I promise you, they do not. It's insanely complicated, and there's a lot of implications there and a lot of moving pieces. And it's not reasonable to expect our politicians, per se, to understand the complexities of that. So most politicians should probably be saying something like, this is really complicated. We should maybe put together a panel of experts to help guide us on lawmaking, because this stuff is complicated and you would have to dedicate 5 years or so to your life to fully understand it. And that's not reasonable to expect our politicians to be experts in that kind of a way.
Well, and you can see, the kind of the road we're going down right here is the importance of data and understanding how things are moving and changing. And so I think, when it comes to your marketing and how to, I guess, project in the future, one of the things that I think is important is to go, if you think almost like an investor, right? You have your own, you have your small business inside of the metaverse, right? And the cryptocurrency and these big, new atmospheres that we're operating under. You almost have to think like an investor and think, have some foresight on what do you think is going to be the next places to essentially invest. And one of those things that, at least on my end, and I'd like to hear your end, something that I would think that you'd really want to start investing in now would be different types of content that you can use and how you would structure that content and what's the new asset within these structures when it comes to growing your business, right? In the past, before technology, it was you can buy lists from companies that were getting this data. Nothing's really changed, right? It's just the delivery of it. Because you used to be able to get data from people who were buying magazines or whatever from other companies, but it was just no one knew that you could do that, and it was kind of more hand to hand, right? Like,
Right.
these are the most recent magazine buyers, whatever. And so then the assets were, can you buy these lists? Can you get these names, these phone numbers, these emails, their buying history? And everything was kind of more name, phone number, email. But moving forward, it might turn into something different, right? It might be people watching stuff or people hanging out
Yeah.
in some of these virtual arenas, right?
Yeah.
And so I would think, in my opinion, investing for the future is to really understand what types of content and how people will consume the content moving forward, because then that's where you can start to invest
Yeah.
your time and energy and money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a super valid point, and we might get some people listening to this and saying, "Oh, great! Now there's more things I got to keep an eye on." But I, as someone who loves technology and I'm like involved in all sorts of areas of technology, at the end of the day, we're communicating with people and working on the behavioral side of sales, your angle, your messaging, how to provide that value, how to monetize that value, how to create content that means something to someone, but just maybe keep an eye on some of these new areas.
Sure.
But the reality is written word
Yeah.
is going to be around for a long
Yeah.
that's never going away. Video is going to be around for a long time. So whether that's video delivered inside some sort of Zuckerberg metaverse or video delivered in some other way, it's going to be video.
Yep.
Right? Photos are going to be around,
Or
so your
audio.
imagery or audio,
Like we're
right?
doing now.
Podcasts, right? And so it's
In fact, let me
Yeah.
cut you off really quick to ask you a question about this, because you said podcast. So I've noticed Facebook has increased. I'm seeing some of these other marketers uploading their podcasts on Facebook.
yeah.
Have you had any experience with that, and or what are your thoughts on that in general?
I mean, the reality is the more places you can get your content, the better. It's such an easy thing to do to upload your entire podcast, especially a lot of people have a virtual assistant or whatever, so they just send over the podcast and say, okay, upload it to all these places or whatever, right? And it's just part of their normal content creation process. And throwing it on Facebook is great. I mean, Facebook might eventually launch a podcast version, like an audio only version of something. I wouldn't be one bit surprised. The reality is, though, is most people aren't going to Facebook to listen to a full podcast.
Yeah.
So you might get a little bit of reach out of it, but there's no harm in throwing it up there. We have this podcast listed in Spotify and Stitcher and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, because when people open up those apps, they're there to listen to a podcast, and so it's just kind of how they consume it. But that there's no harm in throwing that up on YouTube, on Facebook.
Yep.
IGTV will let you upload something up to 60 minutes.
Yep.
You could cut it up and upload some snippets onto TikTok or whatever. You can do all of those things.
So really, and I will admit, I actually did consume my first and full long form podcast on Facebook.
Really?
Was it last week no? It was 2 weeks ago. Mostly because I wanted to see how it operated, but also I thought the podcast was good. It was one of the I always say his name wrong, but I could see his face. But the Facebook guy, John Loomer. Yes. So it was his, and his podcast is, I think it was something named like, beer and something. So like his angle was he would have the podcast while having a beer with you.
Right.
And I thought it was a kind of a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I consumed my first long form piece of. I hopefully I'm not the only one in the whole world, but I actually had a good experience. Like it was pretty smooth, and I didn't have to there were very little kinks in how to consume it.
So was it a video?
No.
Or was it audio only?
Straight up audio, just like if you were on the Apple Podcast app or
Interesting.
Stitcher or anything else. I click play. It looks exactly the same. It was playing even when I got off of Facebook for a second. So I got a text message. It was still playing, and so that's like a feature that I think is kind of important, because I've noticed like YouTube, is doing the same, and some of these other app platforms where they're still keeping the screen, even if it's not video, they're still keeping the audio screen available so it could keep playing while you're doing other stuff. So I don't know, but I enjoyed it, and I thought the experience was pretty good.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on then, because I mean, the more places you can kind of have it. I typically don't listen to anything too long on Facebook, mostly because, I listen to podcasts and things while I'm doing something else. That's why I love podcasts so much. And when I open it up in a browser window on my computer or something like that, I don't open Facebook a whole lot on my phone.
Got it.
But if I close that tab or whatever,
Yeah.
it quits, and I can't go back to where I was, and so I just get frustrated and stop. But no, that's super interesting, and like I wouldn't be one bit surprised if we have a dedicated podcast section in the Facebook app or the Metaverse app or whatever coming down the road.
What that's telling me though is a lot of what Facebook seems to invest in are exactly the things that they don't want their competitors getting a full head of steam like a TikTok. And it's, podcasts are getting bigger and bigger, it feels like, by the day.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people consume now, whereas maybe, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, there wasn't as much consumption on podcasts outside of like maybe Joe Rogan or something. And I think that gives you an idea of, I think, where things are moving. It's almost like you can look at Facebook to see what the biggest trends are when you start to see them investing more in certain delivery platforms. And podcasting and the reels, in my opinion, seems like that's the new way all of us consumers are consuming content.
Yeah.
So therefore, Facebook is investing heavier in that because there's other players that are providing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to take a step back and just look at all of this, I've heard a lot of marketers and even people in various different media spaces talk about, attention.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, everybody
Gary
has
Vee's branded that.
Yeah.
Attention.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He's a day trader.
That guy's everywhere.
Yeah.
We all have 24 hours in a day, right? And when we're watching TV, we're oftentimes on our phone as well, and that's about as much multitasking as we can do. But people like to try to do more than one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And podcasts, audio only, or audiobooks, like that is the single easiest way to multitask.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I am always listening to something that's not music when I'm driving in my car. It's a podcast, it's an audiobook, it's something, because I while I love music, I like to have mental stimulation or whatever while I'm driving. So Facebook is probably thinking, okay, well, here's another way. If we can have a big chunk of podcasting, we can inject our own ads. We can start hosting audio ads.
Which, just like all these other platforms, Spotify's got the ads, and YouTube's got, everywhere's got the ads. I mean, everything is about ads, right? At the end of the day, it's about, because we want whoever's going to buy our stuff to see and hear us.
Yeah.
And so the way all these companies make money is they have access to a way of knowing these people are watching this or seeing this or consuming that or clicking this and engaging on that. So I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is really have the foresight for investing in the future, which is understanding. When I say invest for the future, meaning even taking the time to understand how these other platforms are doing things, and most importantly, how people are actually using it.
Yeah.
Because that's how you can come up with your ideas on. Really, at the end of the day, marketing is all about just getting in front of the person that may want your product or service.
Yep.
Right? And its simplest form is you can't sell anything that you can't get the product in front of them. And so that's what these platforms allow you to do, is to get, this is the new way on how we all do stuff. We used to read newspaper, now it's on our phones.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you can see how things kind of transform. The old is new. Podcasts have been around for a long time.
Forever.
Facebook seems to starting to getting into those. And it's like, I mean, so they've kind of reinvented this thing to go out there.
Yeah.
Newspapers, they were the thing for the longest time. And now we get our news from our phone. And now we can actually sign up for lists that will send us aggregated news related to what we're interested in.
Yep.
So we don't have to try to filter through all the news ourselves, right? But it's still basically a newspaper.
I use Twitter.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I tweet very seldomly, but I use Twitter a lot, actually. I go and consume news that I want to see.
Yeah.
And usually I feel like Twitter is the best platform to know what's going on right now. Like if something's going on, like for example, if Facebook goes down, you go on Twitter. If Facebook's not working, you go on Twitter. If YouTube's not working, you go on Twitter. It seems like Twitter never goes down, but it's probably because it's simpler, right? It's just only words. So that would be my thought on, I don't know if that's easier to manage. I don't know. But Twitter is my main source. Like if a sporting event's going on, if, big news is happening, I go on Twitter to see like the latest updates on what's going on. And I don't know. That's how I like to consume my news, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I get mine from Reddit.
From Reddit. You know what? I've used Reddit here and there, but I've got a lot of friends that like Reddit. So why do you like Reddit better? Is Reddit better than Twitter for information?
It's a personal. It's just a personal difference on how I consume news. So with Twitter, you follow specific accounts. Mm-hmm. With Reddit, you follow subreddits, which can have hundreds or millions of members in there. It's like a sub-community.
Got it.
And then people can upvote and downvote, and then you can look at what's hot today, and those are the things that are most upvoted. What I like about it is I tend to get exposed to news stories and things that I wouldn't normally see if I were following a specific person.
Got it.
Right? So things tend to bubble up to the top a little slower than they do in Twitter, but you tend to get a more diverse set of things bubbling up to the top. I mean, literally could be the number one thing on Reddit today could be, this was yesterday actually, and I sent it to my wife because we send each other stuff all the time. But the number one thing on Reddit yesterday for a good portion of the day was this puppy and a duck. That were like buddies. Yeah, that was the number one thing. But the day before, it was a news story about some sort of global policy or something like that, right? And so you get exposed to a wider variety of things.
So would you say it's a little bit less algorithm based, which is why you like it?
It's less algorithm based, maybe.
Like it doesn't keep you in that, what do they call it? The echo
chamber
or whatever.
It's definitely less echo chambery, but it does lean a little bit more, like from a political standpoint, it does lean a little bit more like center or a little bit left of center from an American politics standpoint. But you'll see stuff on both sides, right? So there's less echo chamber, but voting manipulation totally happens. I mean, there's Russian farms that have tens of thousands of bots that. So that totally happens, and that happens with everything.
So I've always had when I look at each social media platform, I think of them differently, right? And so I've always viewed Twitter as also an angry place. Is that the same? Where's more angry? Because I've heard Reddit can get pretty brutal as well. Yeah. So what would you rank more anger, Reddit or Twitter?
Oh, jeez. I think it depends on which parts of each platform you get on. The thing with Reddit is it's pseudo-anonymous, so you don't normally know who's saying what.
Got it.
Right? Because it's just usernames and
so people are more honest there.
More honest or more critical or whatever. So there is some garbage on there. I mean, there's a lot of people on there. I think on Twitter, while there's a lot of trash, people tend to maybe pull their punches a little bit because it's almost always associated with their name or whatever. So it kind of depends. I mean, there's whole subreddits dedicated to like wholesomeness.
Got it.
And there's nothing but like positive things on there. There's.
Well, that's what I can tell you. This I don't think there's something like that on Twitter. So I see on Twitter I follow mostly sports stuff, and you can see some pretty nasty stuff being said on there. Yeah. But I think when it comes to marketing, right? The new wave is these are the new channels, just like they were on TV. They're new, every platform attracts a different type of person mentally, meaning where they're just how they're using the platform, right? Like they're there to consume or contribute with some kind of content. So that's where I think all the marketing goes, is understanding how can you plug your business in these platforms where it makes sense, right? Because if you do it wrong, trust me, you will pay. Either your ad accounts get banned, or people will bash you so bad that you're never going to want to go back on. And so you have to kind of learn and study. It's probably in your best interest to learn, study, and invest in knowing who's on these channels and what are the best practices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I'll tell you right now, I mean, Reddit has its own advertising platform and everything like that. I've never had a ton of success with it. Reddit ads is a very different beast because the community is very different. But if you want to reach people that hate Facebook, go on Reddit.
Go on Reddit.
Nearly everybody on Reddit hates Facebook. So if you're like, man, my audience just isn't on Facebook, try out Reddit. They're probably hanging out on Reddit.
Well, and I've heard quite a bit about Reddit doesn't like, not Reddit the company, but the users do not like ads at all.
Correct.
I've heard that if you even put an ad on there, you would just get absolutely demolished. But I've never done it. I've just heard that that's how the ad culture is on that platform.
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a significant portion of people on Reddit that are more privacy focused, and online ads platforms are one of the biggest offenders to privacy in their eyes.
It's the opposite.
and so yeah. But look, if you want to do some organic marketing and get involved in a community, which we've talked about, like dark funnels and dark social or whatever, this is one of those places. If you have some sort of a niche product or service or something like that, hop into these communities, and you can create a profile named your business. That's fine. Most people don't care, or just set your profile as like the founder or owner or VP at a specific business, and hop in there and genuinely be helpful. Without being salesy. And you can get a ton of exposure. I mean, there's this concept called the Reddit hug of death.
Okay.
And what it is essentially if a story bubbles up to the top and hits the actual front page of the entire Reddit, that site is going to get tens of millions of views that day.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of times, if it's like a smaller site or a smaller company that hits the front page of Reddit and everybody's going to look at it, and the site goes down because it's not set up to scale. Like they don't have a good infrastructure or whatever. And so in the comments, it'll be like, oh shit, guys, we hugged the site to death.
Well, that's I've never heard that. That's kind of a cool saying.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting way to do it, and there's lots of different ways to do it. One person I saw that has done an excellent job of marketing on Reddit, and Reddit has like this weird, ironic kind of witty type humor thing. So if you can leverage that, you'll do really well. But one guy, he's big on TikTok now, but he got big on Reddit first, and I can't remember his name, but he makes products that are useless.
Okay.
And then you can buy those as like gag gifts for your friends.
Got it.
So one of those, oh shoot, I'm going to botch it now. Anyway, they're products that are hilarious, but they aren't useful at all. And then he has this store where you can buy them. But I'll have to put a link to it there. But they're just these hilarious products. But he makes these really funny videos about them. One was here's one. I actually just remembered one. Okay, so he created this product that you could put 2 rows of toilet paper on. Because you know how there's this debate about whether toilet paper should be put on with the flap coming on the front versus the back. So he made this product where you could flip it so that whatever your preference was, you could have the 2 rows of toilet paper on there, and you could like flip this thing. And his video talked about how it would save marriages and things like this, right? Like, so it's those kinds of products that are kind of funny. And the guy got huge on Reddit, like massive on Reddit, which he used that to cross-pollinate his YouTube audience, and then he used it to cross-pollinate on TikTok.
Got it.
And the guy now has an entire store. I think he just started without selling anything. But now he has an entire like e-commerce platform where you can buy these stupid products. And every time he puts out a new video, which is about once a month, he gets on the front page, which equals probably 10 million views that day. So it's I'm sure the guy makes pretty great money making these silly products with these silly videos.
Well, he's having fun too, right?
And he's having a lot of fun, yeah.
I think that's important. So I think so to wrap it up, we talked a lot about data, a lot about the changes, but I've heard that data is more valuable now than oil, which I think is true, since if it wasn't valuable, there wouldn't be all these privacy concerns and changes, right?
Yeah.
So I think to wrap it up, basically what you want to do is learn more about different platforms, utilize different strategies with growing your business, and understanding that things are always changing, and so you must, as a business, if you want to survive, you have to adapt. The things that worked yesterday, they're not going to work today. And you just have to constantly be changing your approach and your strategy. And that's what makes this, fun and exciting, is you're never going to get bored, because things are never going to stay the same in this space, right?
No, never.
And so I think, if you ever need help with any of your marketing strategy, or your messaging or things of that nature, you could always go to my website, gregmarshall.co, book a free call. And then Blake, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to blakebuse.com, and you can see all the different ways to interact with me there. There's some freebies. I have a membership on there, and you can reach out to me that way.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, later.